Hello and welcome to another HeroQuest video. Today I'm going to be painting the Barbarian from the base set. As you can see, I have the card art beside me. I'm going to try and reasonably replicate that using the speed paints that I have at my disposal. The first colour up is going to be Warrior Skin. Conveniently enough, painting a warrior using warrior skin. This is the only skin tone that I appear to have got in the Speedpaints mega set. There may well be others available, there probably are actually, and I suggest that the next time you're in your local hobby shop, or if you have a favourite store online that you use to order from, have a look and see what kind of skin tones they've got available and order a few different ones. They're a good tool to have in your bag. As you can tell, I'm painting over a white primer, and the areas of skin on the Barbarian are very obvious. Arms, legs, base, chest, back. You can't really go wrong here. Next colour up is going to be Raging Sea. It's a nice blue tone, and if you look at the card art you'll see there is areas of blue on the Barbarian, and I think that's actually quite nice. It's a good choice. It adds a little bit of colour and breaks up the monotone look, otherwise it would just be fur and skin, and this adds a little bit of colour. Just in case it isn't obvious, I'm always painting over a white primer when using speed paints. The next colour up is going to be Broadsword Silver that I'm going to use to paint his broadsword and also his belt. I'm going to say it's a metal belt, just again to break up the two brown colours either side of it. As long as you're careful, it's hard to go wrong here, and don't forget that if you do make mistakes, it's a simple matter of coming back in with some white paint and touching up. Very easy to do. So now for one of the downsides of the speed paints, and even more so with contrast paints that I have found. When you're using light colours, in this case the warrior skin tone, if you're not careful it can pool and stain very easily. If you use too much paint in an area and you don't move it around quick enough. That's exactly what's happened to me around one side of his face and his shoulder. So that's why I'm in now with the white paint. I'm showing you myself making a mistake and fixing it. I've went in with the white paint, covered the areas that I didn't want to be as dark as they come out, and next, once this is dry, I'll go back in with the warrior skin tone paint again, which I'm doing right now. And this is a simple thing to do. Because these paints are super thin, they're easily repaired, but if you're not careful they will pool and they can stain very quickly. Also, they're not easy to paint over when they're still semi-wet. You can kind of tear the surface of the paint, as you'll notice when you're using them. So whilst I really do like the speed paints, they're not perfect. I'm now going to use Rudy Fur for the purpose it was intended, to paint some fur. You'll notice however on the card art that the fluffy bits of the fur at the top and bottom are more closer to white. I'm going to try and leave those white and hit them with a wash later on to try and separate the hairs and simulate fur. The Ruddy Fur is a nice colour, but it's very similar to his skin tone, so we will see whether or not I keep the Ruddy Fur. The next colour up is going to be Hoplite Gold. There's a couple of areas on his sword and his belt buckle which are gold. Again, adding another colour to the miniature helps, and it's really easy to do. I've decided to come in with some Satchel Brown and hit the fur parts that I'd painted Rudy Fur. I think the Rudy Fur and the warrior skin are too close together in colour. So this is a darker brown and I think it will suit it better. Also I'll paint his sandals with this colour. Again because the skin tone and the Rudy Fur would be too close. I'm now going to use Grim Black to paint his hair. This card art has him with nice black hair, so the Grim Black will do the trick. It may take more than one coat, depending really how dark you want his hair to be. Just remember to let the paint dry before you paint over the top of it with another coat. I'm now going to use Reikland Fleshshade to paint the areas of fur that I want to be white, but not entirely white, if you get my drift. This is going to add a little bit of definition and a little bit of shading to those areas. I'll also hit some areas of the sword and the gold areas with this wash, which again helps add shading to those areas and makes them look better. I'm now coming back in with the Grim Black. He has 1 foot on a rock, so I'm going to paint that rock. I'm going to use Grim Black and I'm going to heavily water it down here, and then I'm going to wash the rock with it. It produces quite a nice stone effect. I'm then going to use my Adeptus Battle Grey to paint the base. Use whichever colour you've chosen for your bases. If you haven't chosen a colour yet, pick one and try and keep it consistent throughout the entire set. That would be my advice. Also, you can go to town on these bases. You could do stonework effects on top of them, but in my opinion, they're going to look a bit daft when you've gone to all this detail of painting stone effect and then put it on a wooden floor, for example. I'm now going back in with the white and I'm going to add a ring to the bottom of the base because I want these models to be very immediately recognizable to the players. They're going to be their character models, so these models are going to get a ring of white, and then I'm going to go over the top of that with some of this Slaughter Red. It'll probably take 2 coats of Slaughter Red because of the translucency of this paint, but it'll just make them pop a little more on the table in amongst the monsters. It'll be easier to see who's a character and who isn't a player character. At least that's my theory behind doing this. Lastly, I'm going to use my matte varnish to varnish this model. Again, these models are in and out of plastic trays. These player characters especially are going to see a lot of handling, a lot of bouncing around a table, probably being hit by dice. So I highly recommend that if you've taken the time to paint them, you take a little extra time and you varnish them before you start using them. Also give them a good 24 hours to dry with the varnish before you put them in their trays. And that's it, job done, and I'm quite happy with the way he's turned out. I know the people who are going to be using these characters are going to enjoy using them. If this painting video, tutorial, whatever you want to call it, has been of any use to you, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.